My husband was a general. When I turned 20, he left me, sacrificing his life for the country. Alone, I raised our child, managed everything in the household, even helping my son secure the noble title. When I had passed 60, I happened to see that son, now a marquis, entering a residence with my beloved grandson. From within came cheerful laughter, piercing my heart like blades. It turned out, my child called another woman mother. It turned out, 40 years of my loyalty had been nothing but a cruel joke, because my husband had never died. When the truth came to light, hatred surged within me, they all had to die. From within the grand courtyard, surrounded by high walls, voices echoed. A steady male voice said, "Mother, have you been feeling stronger today? A few days ago I offered red coral, did you like it?" A gentle female replied, "Was that the gift bestowed upon you by His Majesty? Truly a rare treasure. Few show such filial devotion." That red coral had just been taken from my residence under the excuse of performing a teacher's offering, to find a good tutor for my grandson. Yet it was delivered to an old woman, made his so-called teacher. Then came a childish, clear voice, "Grandmother, I love you most in the world. When can I stay with you forever? That old woman is ugly and fierce, I don't like her at all." A kind elder's voice soothed, "Tianyan, be good. Once that old hag dies, your grandfather and I will return. But clever child, you must not let the secret slip out." The boy replied innocently, "Tianyan is smart. I won't say anything. My grandmother is the best in the world." The courtyard rang with laughter, their joy filling the air. Leaning against the cold wall, my whole body turned to ice. That middle-aged man who just called another woman mother was the very son I had devoted 40 years to raising. That childish voice belonged to the grandson I cherished above all else. But here, beyond the wall, they happily called another woman mother, grandmother. I staggered away, feeling I had aged 10 years in a single moment. Who would have thought, this residence was but one short street away from the Marquis estate in the capital. So my husband, whom I once believed dead, had lived on. So the child I bore for 10 months now wanted to claim another as his mother. So the grandson I loved dearly called me nothing but an ugly, vicious old woman. At the street corner, a carriage driver waited. Startled when he saw me, he rushed forward, "Madam, are you?" I waved him off. "My legs grow weaker, I cannot stand long. Take me back." He helped me into the carriage, then hesitantly asked, "Earlier, I truly saw the Marquis. Did I mistake it?" In a low voice, I replied, "I merely went for a walk. Whether or not I found the Marquis, what does it matter?" He mumbled assent. That night, back at the estate, I sent the driver to his ancestral home in Qing City with 50 taels of gold to settle him securely. Then, I quietly ordered men to watch the Marquis and dispatched others to seek those who had witnessed the old general's supposed death. Qingzhou became the center of my investigation. 3 days later, an uninvited guest arrived. An elderly woman in silks and brocade, stately and well-kept, was supported step by step into the main hall by my daughter-in-law. With gentle, virtuous manner, my daughter-in-law introduced her, "Mother, this is my aunt." The woman inclined her head politely, "I greet madam." I betrayed no expression, did not offer her a seat, only said slowly, "Jiwen, you say this is your aunt?" Li Jiwen replied softly, "Yes, mother. My aunt has long lived in Qingzhou. She has come to the capital to visit me and Tianyan." Qingzhou. I sipped the name with a smile. If she is Jiwen's aunt, then she is a guest of the estate. Has madam found lodging yet? If not, I would fulfill my duty as host. With graceful poise, she declined, "No need to trouble you. I stay at a house on Shijing Lane." Shijing Lane, I echoed with a smile. That is near. When free, madam may visit here to keep Jiwen company. After some idle talk, I excused myself for weariness. Behind the screen, hatred carved into my bones flared again. These beasts who had long cast off all humanity, dared to bring her brazenly into my very hall. They wanted to rip out my heart and torment me, did they? I had thought my daughter-in-law was like me, deceived, blinded. Yet to my shock, she had long known the truth. Perhaps she and my dutiful son had secretly laughed at me thousands, tens of thousands of times. I truly was blind, both in eyes and heart. Only now, at the edge of old age, do I finally see how thoroughly I had been deceived. A husband who only feigned death. A son who had been switched. A grandson whose heart turned from me. A daughter-in-law who began deceiving me the moment she stepped into the estate. In this grand Marquis household, in the end, there was not a single soul I could trust. If that was so, none of them should dream of living in peace. The Marquis Shinsu was occupied with state affairs, so at breakfast it was only me and my daughter-in-law Li Jiwen. Today, there was another elderly woman at the table. From their conversation, I learned her name was Lien Suqiu, her hometown Qingzhou. Though my face betrayed nothing, the hand hidden within my sleeve had clenched tightly into a fist. Lien Suqiu. So it was her. I would never forget the humiliation she had once brought me. Yes, I had heard this name before, on the night of my ill-fated marriage. I remembered clearly because that night, drunk, my husband had murmured this name again and again. How could I allow him such indulgence? I struck him across the face until he sobered, forcing him never to mention it before me again. Later, I discovered that Lien Suqiu was his childhood cousin, once close as bamboo and plum. But before his marriage, she had long since wed a wealthy merchant in her hometown. Who could have known, though he never spoke her name again before me, he had hidden her right here in the capital, beneath my very eyes. After breakfast, I dabbed my lips with a handkerchief and said pleasantly, "Where in Shijing Lane do you stay?" "I have a pair of fine pigeon blood stone ornaments I'd like to send to your residence." Ignoring the faint disapproval in Jiwen's eyes, Lien Suqiu quickly answered, "Yes." I ordered a trusted matron to deliver them personally, making clear how highly I valued Jiwen's so-called aunt. Then I remarked to the attendants, "This chicken and herb broth is truly well made today, very nourishing." What ingredients were used? A clever maid replied, "I cannot recall them all, madam, but I do remember one slice of thousand-year ginseng was added." I nodded. Such a tonic, set aside a bowl for my son as well. Then, smiling, I turned to daughter-in-law and her aunt. "Jiwen has been weak of late, she should have a bowl too. Would elder sister also like to try some?" Both nodded. Li Jiwen sipped, then frowned immediately. I smiled lightly. "No need to force it if you cannot take it. Just remember to persuade the Marquis to drink more, it is most nourishing." Lien Suqiu drank several mouthfuls in succession, praising, "Madam treats the Marquis so well." I replied smoothly, naturally. "He is my only son. If I am not good to him, then to whom should I be?" We smiled at each other, yet neither of us missed the mocking glint in her eyes. After breakfast, I returned to my quarters. The matron said with the gift soon came back, her face troubled. I dismissed everyone else. She fell to her knees with a thud. "Madam, in the house at Shijing Lane, there truly is an elder man, richly dressed. At a glance, he resembles the Marquis. My ill-fated husband had died at 20. 40 years had passed since. Few in the estate would still recognize him. But he was Shinsu's father. A slight resemblance was enough for me to sentence him to death. I did not rage, I laughed. So, everything is clear at last. 2 months passed. The men I had sent out returned one after another. I gathered all the secret reports in one place, reading each carefully. When I reached one particular letter, my hands began to tremble uncontrollably. Only when drops blurred the ink upon the page did I realize it was my tears. 40 years, long ago I had forgotten what tears were. Yet a single small letter awakened the deepest pain in my heart. When my husband died, I forced myself to shoulder the vast general's estate. When my parents passed away, I carried on the will of the family, petitioning for a noble title so that the bloodline of the Zhao would not end. The late emperor, remembering my father's service to the nation, granted my son the title of Marquis despite the opposition of the court. Though hereditary titles would be lowered in rank with each generation, at least it was a blessing for descendants to inherit. For this family, I gave everything, even at nearly 50 still laboring over household affairs. Yet who would have thought, all I had given was only a cruel joke. Shinsu was not my flesh and blood. My real son had died 40 years ago, in a vile and calculated plot. The thought made rage and hatred surge within me, until I coughed up a mouthful of blood. The hot stains soaked into the letter, turning it into a useless scrap. Swallowing the metallic taste in my mouth, I trembled as I burned all the letters. Whether they were true or false, I had my own judgment. I had gathered them only to lift the veil of fog for myself. I would not throw these so-called proofs in Shinsu's face to scold his family. Nor would I hand them over to ruin the Shin name in disgrace. What I wanted was absolute death for every last one of them, the complete annihilation of the Shin family's foundation. What I had given, I could reclaim bit by bit. After erasing every trace in the study, I staggered to the doorway, then collapsed unconscious before the old matron could catch me. When I woke, Shinsu stood beside the bed, his face filled with concern. Mother has finally awakened. Is there anywhere you feel unwell? I forced a smile. Shinsu is here. I feel nothing now. I reached a hand out from the quilt. He hurried forward, helping me sit up. I patted his hand, my eyes filled with longing and memory. Perhaps it was only my headaches returning. Do you remember, when you were 14 or 15, you fell gravely ill? I was so anxious, I sat awake 3 days and nights without closing my eyes. From then on this weakness of mine remained. In Shinsu's eyes flashed guilt and emotion. Mother has always loved me most. I released his hand and tilted my head. The one I love most is of course my dear grandson. Where is Tianyan? Why has he not come to see this old woman? Shinsu was silent for a while, then said, he came earlier, but you were not yet awake. I let him go back to his studies. My gaze sank deep as I looked at him. Tianyan is just like you, always so diligent. But Shinsu, I raised you 40 years. How could I not recognize when you are lying? That child who once called me fierce and ugly now has another grandmother. How would he wish to visit me anymore? I already knew well they were not kin to me, but enemies. Yet all these years, I had given them true devotion, never once false. The sorrow in my heart was not because of betrayal from kin, but because the self of my younger years had offered her sincere heart to the wrong people. Now age weighed upon me, my body frailier each day. I asked Shinsu, today I suddenly collapsed. Do you know the cause? He answered with care, Mother has only worried too much. Old ailments returned, but the imperial physician said it is nothing serious. I grasped his hand. So you called a physician for me? His face full of concern, of course. Physician Zheng is the one who knows your body best. If it were anyone else, I would not be at ease. Moved, I showed gratitude. It is thoughtful of you. Physician Zheng is the most senior in the Imperial Medical Institute. Naturally, I trust him. Shinsu spoke with me a while longer, then left on the excuse of urgent duties. Forcing myself to endure the weakness that lingered after fainting, I lowered my voice, bring him in. The so-called physician Zhang was led inside, his clothes disheveled, a shoe stuffed into his mouth. The maid at my side pulled the shoe from his mouth, snorted, and flung it aside. Physician Zhang, once a respected figure in the Imperial Medical Institute, revered even by nobles within the palace, had never endured such humiliation. Now, the old man with silver hair, his eyes flushed red with fury, shouted, Madam, why do you treat me this way? I am Deputy Commissioner of the Imperial Medical Institute. I lifted my gaze slightly and gestured to the maid. She stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face. Physician Zhang was stunned, his head snapping to the side, dazed. I furrowed my brow as if displeased, and said softly, you must not be so rude. Bring a chair for Physician Zhang. Bewildered by this sudden mix of cruelty and courtesy, he sat down, his face full of doubt and unease. I spoke kindly, this old body is unwell. I must trouble Physician Zhang to care for me. Only. I am aged, and truly fear death. May I ask you frankly, what is my condition? At this, anger flickered across his brow. If you ask, I will answer. Why resort to such measures? I smiled. The servants behaved poorly. I will punish them severely. Then I ordered a chest of gold to be brought in and opened before him. His expression eased. Stroking his beard, he said slowly, yours is an old illness, worsened by overthinking. With rest and a few doses of medicine, it will pass. I smiled, though there was no mirth in my eyes. Old illness, you mean the headaches? He glanced at me, nodded gravely as though profound. I nodded as well, then shifted my gaze to the gold chest. Physician Zhang, you have worked hard. Would you like this? He stroked his beard again, eyes betraying naked greed though he pretended indifference. If Madam bestows it, how could I dare refuse? I laughed lightly. Haha, Physician Zhang knows how to jest. I have something even better. Bring it in. Hearing this, his eyes lit up with expectation. At my signal, a larger chest was brought and dropped at his feet with a heavy thud. I smiled. Why not open it yourself? What lies within will surely surprise you. Feigning calm, Physician Zhang stepped forward, slowly lifting the lid. At just a glance, he staggered back in shock. Then suddenly he lurched forward, tearing the chest open with trembling hands. Inside lay a child, bound tight like a dumpling, mouth gagged. I raised my brows. See. Quite unexpected, isn't it, Physician Zhang? Not disappointing, I trust. He fumbled to pull the cloth from the child's mouth, untying the ropes in panic, weeping and crying, heavens, what sin is this? The old man and his grandchild clung to each other, sobbing bitterly, a scene meant to stir hearts. I dabbed the corner of my eyes with a handkerchief, murmuring with false sentiment, Physician Zhang and his lively grandchild, what deep affection indeed. Then my tone shifted. So, you understand the choice before you now. I ordered them separated. The child was bound again. Physician Zhang sobbed, knocking his head on the ground. Madam, why must you go so far? I tucked away the handkerchief, smiling. Of course there is no need, if you will answer me again, what is the truth of my condition? He sprawled on the ground, silent. I waited patiently, until a maid carrying medicine stumbled and spilled the bowl. Porcelain shattered, bitter liquid splattering across the floor. A sharp cut across Physician Zhang's robes. At last he raised his head, his face wet with tears and snot, and stammered, it was all, the Marquis's will. An hour later, I had them carried away in a sedan, Physician Zhang and his grandchild, together with the chest of gold. I sat and thought, weighing the filthy truths that had just surfaced. Not until dusk fell did calm return to me. So, the son I had raised with all my heart had long wished me dead. I once believed I knew him better than anyone in this world. Only now did I understand, the wicked cannot be fathomed. As early as 20 years ago, I had already felt something amiss in my body. At that time, my father had just died, my mother fell ill, and Shinsu had reached the age to enter officialdom. I was so overwhelmed that I wished I could split myself into 8 pieces just to cope. My failing health I dismissed as the toll of overwork. Moreover, Shinsu, ever so filial in appearance, found a renowned physician to treat me. After a few doses of medicine, my condition truly improved. That physician was none other than Physician Zhang, now an imperial physician of the Medical Institute. So it was that Shinsu had begun plotting my life 20 years ago. Only, the poison he used then was too mild, and I was exceedingly cautious in all matters of food and drink. And besides, he could not let me die too soon. His career path still required my support to build his foundation. Only now do I realize, his intent all along was to tread upon the blood of my Zhao family to climb to high rank. Over the years, Shinsu never ceased poisoning me. Whether food, sachets of herbs to drive insects, even the scent of ink on books, he tampered with them all. The only reason I live today is thanks to the palace skills I had learned from my wet nurse before marriage. Because of them, I never used fragrances, I was obsessively careful with food, and I spent spare hours reading medical texts. This made it difficult for Shinsu to succeed, stretching the struggle across decades, so that in the end I survived more than 20 years longer. Yet it was in those declining years that I uncovered a chilling truth. No matter physician Zhang's skill, his position in the Imperial Medical Institute was granted largely through my son's backing, resources that, of course, came from the things I had fought bitterly to secure for him. Learning about physician Zhang was simple. His son was a wastrel, squandering money in gambling dens and brothels, all funded by Shinsu. His grandson, though only a child, possessed extraordinary talent in medicine. Physician Zhang valued him more than his own life. How to control Physician Zhang, I knew perfectly well. He understood that I could abduct his grandson at any moment. I even stationed guards under his very eyes. In such a state, he dared not move against me. The most important thing was, my time was running short. After enduring all these years, I had lived enough. But before death, I must drag others down with me. That is the bearing of Zhao Junyi. If I did not die, then it was certain someone else must. I pressed into the secret compartment beneath my bed, drawing out a small porcelain vial. It was my mother's bequest, the final weapon she gave me to defend myself before she passed away. In these days of convalescence, at last my dutiful grandson, Shen Tianyan, came to visit. I stroked his head, smiling gently. Your father says you are diligent in your studies. How goes your learning? The boy, barely in his teens, let slip a flash of disgust in his eyes, quickly masked by obedience. I have done very well. I withdrew my hand, my voice no longer warm. Tianyan, tell your grandmother, do you truly like studying such things? He looked at me with guileless expression. If grandmother wishes me to study, then of course I like to study. I shook my head, sighing. After facing life and death, I have thought it through. If you do not enjoy something, then do not force yourself. From this day forth, do only what you wish to do. Tianyan tilted his head, confusion clouding his young face. Grandmother, what do you mean? I truly do not understand. I smiled. Your father is a second-rank marquis. One day you will inherit his title, and you too can carve out your own name in court. But seeing you toil at your studies day after day, my heart aches for you. When I said this, a flicker of surprise passed across Shen Tianyan's eyes. Grandmother, do you truly mean it? I nodded. In the past it was I who was wrong, always forcing you. But now I have thought it through. As the eldest grandson of the Marquis estate, all that matters is that you live happily. I could never be harsh with this child. To let him taste a little joy before he dies, isn't that good as well? Very soon, he will have no chance to play anymore. I narrowed my eyes, a kindly smile spreading across my face. In the past, I had been too strict with Tianyan. Shinsu often tried to dissuade me. Now, with no restraints from me, Tianyan's playful nature was laid bare. Though Shinsu scolded him again and again, it was useless. Li Jiwen, who had never cared for teaching children, when faced with quarrels between her son and her husband, could only sit and weep. These days, Lian Suqiu often came to comfort them. But she herself had never been taught discipline, and she doted blindly on her grandson, naturally siding with Tianyan. This forced Shinsu to come to me for help. I sighed, speaking helplessly, Shinsu, you should pity your mother a little. Now that I am bedridden, I truly no longer have the strength to manage Tianyan. Saying this, I handed over much of the household authority to Li Jiwen. Without her as a buffer to reconcile, the relationship between Shen Su and Shen Tianyan only grew more strained. In these days, Li Jiwen often came to my quarters seeking guidance. I held nothing back, entrusting everything to her, until she exclaimed in astonishment, "Mother-in-law is truly wise. You are the most noble lady in the capital, no rustic women could ever compare." With people like Li Jiwen, I understood all too well. She would be loyal to whomever gave her the greatest benefit. In the past, when Lian Suqiu told her that after my death the family would be reunited, she had treated Lian Suqiu as her true mother. But Lian Suqiu had no ability to educate children, and often quarreled with her husband, leaving Jiwen's small household restless and unhappy. Now that I gave her real power, allowing her to profit as well, her ambition naturally flared. I waved my hand, smiling. Jiwen is intelligent and eager to learn. But I am truly tired, enough for today. Li Jiwen replied with concern, "If mother is unwell, then I shall not disturb you further." Before she left, I said, "Do not forget the important things because of a few small lessons. The Marquis is busy with state affairs. Take a bowl of chicken broth to him in my stead." Her cheeks flushed. Mother is so thoughtful, even caring about such small matters. I reminded her, "One last thing, when you bring it over, say that you cooked it yourself." Li Jiwen hesitated. "This." I smiled. "Sincerity is worth more than anything. I hear you and Shen Su have quarreled of late. Between husband and wife, harmony is rare. If you yield a little, Shen Su will be grateful." Li Jiwen was moved. "Mother, thank you for your care. I will look after the Marquis well." I nodded and waved her off. "Go, do not let the broth grow cold." When Li Jiwen was gone, I sat up from bed and called for the close maid to come near. This maid had only been with me 4 months, but she was a loyal child. That day, when I returned to the Marquis estate in despair, I had seen her by chance. She had stuck a blade of grass on her clothes, standing by the roadside begging passers-by to save her mother. I paid 5 taels of silver and bought her to my side. I gave her the name Lingchun. Lin, to hear the sound of spring, also to welcome a new life. This child was clever and quick-witted. On her, I seemed to glimpse shadows of the past. I called her to me and handed her a wooden box. The box was heavy, yet she held it steady. I smiled, encouraging her. "This is for you. Open it." Inside were banknotes, some loose silver, and of course, her deed of sale. Lingchun only glanced at it before her eyes turned red. She dropped to her knees, voice trembling, "Madam, you." I chuckled softly, helping her up. "From this day onward, you may leave at any time." She nodded, rising to support me. I sat before the dressing table, my clouded eyes fixed on the bronze mirror. The reflection showed an aged face lined with wrinkles, hair white and combed neatly, adorned with no ornament. I even told Lingchun to dust a little powder at the corners of my mouth, so that I looked even paler, more worn. The time was near for a grand play. After days of feigned sickness in bed, at last I would stretch my limbs again. At dusk, a shrill scream tore apart the stillness of the Marquis estate. A young maid rushed into my quarters, falling to her knees in tears. "Madam, the Marquis has vomited blood. Please, come quickly." I startled upright, and with Lingchuan's help hastily donned a robe. 2 maids supported me to the main hall. When I arrived, the household physicians were already diagnosing. Shen Su lay upon the bed, eyes shut tight, coughing up mouthfuls of blood. 2 physicians took his pulse, applying acupuncture, yet could not stop the hemorrhaging. Seeing me, they clung to hope, reporting anxiously, "Madam, the Marquis's illness is sudden. We fear only the imperial physicians can handle it." I trembled as I sat by Shen Su's bed, tears blurring my vision. "I have already sent for Physician Zhang. Please, do all you can to preserve my son's life." Then, in deliberate tone, I added, "In this household remains half a root of imperial bestowed 1000-year ginseng. One physician's eyes lit. Ginseng may preserve life. It could prolong the Marquis's breath. I waved my hand, ordering Lingchun, bring the 1000-year ginseng at once. After much fuss, Shinsu was fed a slice. The bleeding ceased for the moment. He half opened his eyes, whispering faintly, "Mother." I let tears fall, sighing in anguish, "My son, who has harmed you?" Confusion flickered across Shinsu's face before he coughed blood again. At dusk. I drank the chicken broth that one brought. Li Jiwen, sobbing at his side, lifted her tear-streaked face in horror. "My lord, it cannot be, how could the broth?" I waved, my eyes heavy with meaning, and ordered the physicians, examine the broth. Jiwen froze, her tears halting. "Mother, that bowl was prepared at your order. You told me to bring it to the Marquis." Covering my eyes, I let my tears fall. "What a curse!" Lingchun flared with anger. "Madam, what do you mean? Do you claim she sought to harm the Marquis?" Jiwen faltered, stammering, of course not. "Perhaps, the cause lies elsewhere." But the physician lifted a silver needle blackened with poison, his voice trembling, "Madam, the Marquis was poisoned by the broth." A scream burst from my throat. I struck Li Jiwen hard across the face. "Vile woman! You dared poison my son." Shinsu, disbelieving, looked from me to the daughter-in-law kneeling wretchedly at his side. My hand left a burning red mark upon her cheek. Between me and Jiwen, Shinsu could only believe me. He closed his eyes, voice weighted with grief. "Mother, you must investigate thoroughly. Do not wrong the innocent." I drew the quilt over him, my voice breaking. "And I shall not spare the guilty." At last Physician Zhang arrived, late and trembling, casting me one fearful glance before tending to Shinsu. Tears streamed as I spoke each word into his ears. "Physician Zhang, save my son. You must keep him alive." Then I led the household servants away, their footsteps thundering through the courtyard. Jiwen collapsed at my feet, weeping in despair. "Mother, it truly wasn't me. That broth came from your own quarters." I lifted her, my tone sorrowful. "I would never slander the good. But the wicked, I shall never spare." I turned to Lingchun. "Search the estate. Bring me everything out of place." I sat in the middle of the courtyard, Jiwen kneeling beside me. It was not long before someone sent word to Lian Suqiu. I watched as she stormed into the estate. Servants tried to bar her, but I stepped forward. Lian Suqiu, her face flushed, asked in alarm, "The Marquis, how is he?" At her side stood an old man, stooped, head bowed, his face obscured. I dabbed my eyes with a handkerchief, my voice full of sorrow. How hard it is for elder sister to trouble herself, coming so late at night to visit my son. Only, Physician Zhang is still inside treating him, and the situation is not yet clear. At this, Lian Suqiu grew more anxious, nearly weeping. I must go in and see him." I gave her a strange look, then turned toward Li Jiwen. Jiwen trembled as she answered weakly, "Aunt only worries for him." I said coldly, "The Marquis is under urgent treatment. His life and death hang in the balance. All unrelated persons have been asked to leave." "Elder sister, do you mean to disturb Physician Zhang in his work?" Truly discourteous. Whatever words struck her, Lian Suqiu fell silent, though her tears fell like a string of broken pearls. She gripped the hand of the old man beside her, her whole body shaking. Even so, I did not drive them out. It was not until midnight that Physician Zhang stumbled out, shaken. He fell to his knees before me, his voice trembling. "Madam, the Marquis's poisoning is too severe. He cannot be saved." Before I could respond, Lian Suqiu shrieked, "No!" and rushed inside. I caught Li Jiwen's hand, lowering my voice. "Jiwen, your aunt seems far too concerned for the Marquis." But Jiwen only wept, not heeding me, pleading instead, "Mother, I beg you, let me see him." Weariness swept through me. These people would not even bother to pretend anymore. Go, then. On the bed lay Shinsu, body bent like a drawn bow, face contorted in agony. I stepped closer, gasping. This is the reversal drug. Lien Suchio stopped crying, staring blankly. What is that? In anguish I said, the reversal drug is a secret palace poison. My son, who would do this to him? Lien Suchio turned dazedly toward the old man at her side. He only nodded silently. Catching the sight, I nearly laughed aloud. What a fine family indeed, to watch their own child dying, yet remain so calm. Just then, a maid entered with a bundle of medicine. At the sight of the cloth wrapping, Li Jiwen's face drained of color. This is... Before her eyes, I slowly unwrapped it, revealing several pale brown round pills of herbal medicine. Shinsu's face twisted further. From his throat came broken syllables. Lien Suchio, as if her heart were torn apart, shoved past me to clutch his hand. My son, my child. The handkerchief slipped from my grasp, pills scattering across the floor. The old man beside the bed saw them, his hoarse voice demanding, where did these come from? Ling Chun answered loudly, they were found in the lady's quarters, and the handkerchief is the one she often uses. The old man raised his head, eyes sharp as a hawk, fixed upon Li Jiwen. She cried out at once, they are my own medicines. What has that to do with the marquis being poisoned? I swept my gaze to the old man, speaking to Jiwen in a shaking voice, do you even know what this is? This is Ma Qian Zi. The old man pronounced each word slowly, his aged voice rasping, Ma Qian Zi, the very base used to make the reversal drug, the deadliest poison. From Shinsu's throat, words were torn out with blood. Poisonous woman, vile creature. Then no more sound came. I pushed Lien Suchio aside, flinging myself upon Shinsu, sobbing as I checked his breath and pulse. When at last I felt his body growing cold, relief washed through me. Dead. Dead, how good. At that moment, Lien Suchio had already begun grappling with Li Jiwen. Or more precisely, she was striking her alone. Li Jiwen, already shattered with grief at losing her husband, now faced false accusations of murder. Bewildered, she could not understand, until after several blows she finally resisted, crying out. It was not me. I did not kill the marquis. It was mother. I kept weeping, paying her no mind. Lien Suchio, seeing me wailing so piteously, suddenly struck Jiwen hard across the face. Vile woman. It must be you. My son never treated you poorly. And if you wish to take in a courtesan, what of it? Why would you kill him? I ceased my sobbing, staggered forward, and seized Lien Suchio's wrist, shoving her back. What nonsense are you saying? Shinsu is my son. Since when does a madwoman like you get to claim kinship with him? His corpse not yet cold, the room had already fallen into utter chaos. Jiwen and Lien Suchio quarreled bitterly, until Jiwen suddenly screamed. It was Aunt who gave me the medicine. The old man who had been siding with Lien Suchio against Jiwen abruptly froze. A smile flickered briefly in my eyes, but I quickly feigned rushing to Jiwen's aid, shoving Lien Suchio forcefully aside. Dragged down by Jiwen's reaction, I let myself fall, pretending to faint. At that moment, hurried footsteps rang out. Ling Chun cried aloud. Someone. Madam has collapsed. I did not stay unconscious long. When I awoke, Ling Chun bent close to whisper in my ear. Madam, the old woman is dead. You pushed her, her head struck something hard. Pity touched my gaze. Lien Suchio, stronger and healthier than I, had fallen as well, yet she died. Of course, not by fate. She had drunk no small amount of that chicken broth. In one single day, 2 deaths occurred within the Marquis estate, drawing even officials to investigate. What I had not expected was that the old man testified Lien Suchio died of an old illness, nothing to do with Jiwen. As for the Marquis's death, he claimed it was Lien Suchio's malicious heart, borrowing her niece's hand to kill him. I wondered then, down in the underworld, how would mother and daughter face one another? With this, matters seemed for the moment concluded. But the estate hung white mourning cloths. Whispers spread, some thought it was I, the old madam, who had passed. None imagined it was the Marquis, still in his prime. I pled grief so overwhelming it caused me to faint again and again, thus excusing myself from attending Shinsu's funeral. Li Jiwen bore her anguish, arranging her husband's rites. Yet lacking skill in household management, she blundered, drawing ridicule. The name of the Marquis estate in the capital fell swiftly into decline, its former splendor gone. As for Shin Tianyan, in one night he lost the two dearest to him. It was as if the heavens had collapsed. His mother, too burdened with grief, had no time to comfort him. So he ran to me, sobbing. I held him, sighing over and over. Oh, what misfortune! Why could his parents not show tolerance toward one another? After a few sighs, I vomited blood once more. Ling Chun, though I urged her many times to leave, refused to go. Before Tianyan, she helped me lie down, then gently led him outside, soothing him. Madam is too heartsick. Young master must not disturb her rest. If there is anything you wish to know, I will tell you truthfully. I did not know what she told him, only that from that day forward, he clung to me constantly. When I asked, I learned she had told him that I was soon to die. I stroked his head, murmuring tenderly. Do not be sad, Tianyan. But he will never see me die, because before that, he must first meet his father in the Yellow Springs. His fault is not great, yet he cannot be allowed to live, for he is Shinsu's son. The filthy blood of that line, I will not permit to remain in this world. For I already knew, when my trueborn son was switched at birth, he had been smothered then and there. They did not even leave him a single breath of hope. And so, what right have I to show the slightest mercy to their descendants? My revenge will not be foolish. I will never pull weeds without tearing out the roots. Knowing she could not touch me in the slightest, nor had the strength to uncover the truth, with even her own son estranged, Li Jiwen seemed to fall into despair or lose all will to live. Day after day she shut herself away in a small Buddha hall, avoiding everyone. Half a month passed like this. My body grew weaker by the day. Ling Chun kept vigil at my side, her eyes red, clearly weeping in secret. I teased her, I am not your father, nor your mother. When I die, you will only lose a position. Why grieve so bitterly? She wiped her tears, whispering sadly, Madam, you are the kindest to me besides my own mother. Forgive me if I lack propriety, sometimes I see you as my true grandmother. My eyes grew dim. I smiled faintly. Ling Chun, tell me about yourself. Life is wearisome, let me hear of others for once. She dried her tears and told me her story. When she finished, she continued with talk of matters within the estate. When she mentioned an old man who often loitered outside the gates, I sat up. Her eyes now dry, her face strangely solemn, she said, that old man has begged many times to enter the estate. When the gatekeepers ask who he seeks, he gives no reply. I ordered them to bar him. But these past days he comes every day. The servants treat him as a madman. I said, prepare a bowl of milk, Tianyan's favorite. Then pack your belongings. Let that old man in, and do not return. In the small box you will find the pass token, keep it with you. Ling Chun froze, her eyes welling again. I barked, I have no time to coddle you. Leave the estate. Go care for your mother. She knelt instantly, knocking her head against the floor. Madam, I do not know what you have endured, but surely those people are guilty beyond forgiveness. If there is another life, I pray you may live freely, as you wish, in peace. My eyes stung, but I forced hardness into my tone. Go, quickly. Do not waste my time. A bowl of milk was set upon the table. Though my limbs had grown stiff, I walked there myself, trembling hands dripping 2 drops of colorless, scentless liquid into the bowl. As usual, Shin Tianyan entered my quarters, his face alight with joy at the sight of the single bowl. "Grandmother, is this prepared for me?" I smiled, nodding, though sorrow touched my gaze. "Yes. But do not drink yet. We must wait for someone." Today he was more obedient than usual. He nodded, then asked, "Where is Sister Lingchun? Are we waiting for her?" I shook my head. "She has gone home. Tonight she will not return." He nodded again, asking no more. At last, an old man with snow-white hair stepped inside, his cloudy eyes fixed upon Tianyan. Tianyan leaned close, whispering to me, "Who is this? He looks so filthy." I smiled faintly. "The one we awaited has arrived. Tianyan, now you may drink the milk." "Delighted," he said, "thank you, grandmother. I love the milk here best, no place else has such flavor." The old man sat across from me, sighing. In a hoarse voice he said, "Junyi, you recognize me." My smile never reached my eyes. I only inclined my head. I did not answer him. Instead, I turned to Shin Tianyan. "Tianyan, do you not recognize him? You once called him grandfather." Startled, Tianyan lifted his head, the spoon clattering into the bowl, milk spilling everywhere. Shin Ling brushed back his disheveled white hair, revealing a face that bore 3 parts resemblance to Shin Su. Tianyan glanced at my expression, hesitated, and said, "My grandfather has been dead for many years. Do not mistake him for another." I smiled faintly. "Tianyan, the time has come. Say farewell to your grandfather." Shin Ling seemed to catch the meaning behind my words. His face grew stricken. "You mean? Zhao Junyi, do you mean to kill even your own husband?" "Do not speak nonsense," I replied calmly. "My husband died 40 years ago, sacrificing his life for the nation." "Ah." Tianyan convulsed, his body writhing in pain as he spat a mouthful of blood. Only then did Shin Ling realize that my farewell had been meant for Tianyan. He rushed to his grandson's side, his voice ragged with grief. "Even a beast spares its young. Tianyan is your grandson." I laughed coldly. "He is your grandson. What is he to me?" Slowly, I enunciated each word, my voice steeped in hatred. "Years ago, you all conspired to kill my son, nearly taking my life as well when I struggled in childbirth. From that moment, you should have prepared yourselves for the end of your line." Shin Ling cradled Tianyan, blood pouring from the boy's mouth. He sobbed hoarsely, "I beg you, save him, save Tianyan. He is the Shin family's only bloodline." I stepped forward and slapped him hard. The foulest blood in this world is the blood of the Shin family. Why should it be preserved? I poured all my heart into raising a son, only for him to begin poisoning me 20 years ago. I cherished a grandson, only for him never to regard me as grandmother. So young yet cunning, feigning obedience to please, even casting aside his own mother. Now I see, it was not my failing in teaching. It is because from the roots, the Shin are evil. At last, Tianyan drew his final breath in Shin Ling's arms. With a scream of anguish, Shin Ling hurled himself at me, intent on killing me. I tore the hairpin from my head. Ignoring the pain that crushed every bone, I stabbed again and again into Shin Ling. One thrust, his scream echoed unending. Another thrust. I had little life left in me anyway. But Shin Ling, I would make him die before me. Hot blood soaked me through. Finally, I smiled in peace. "My child, after 40 years apart, your mother has at last avenged you. On the road to the Yellow Springs, I will come find you soon." Extra story. I opened my eyes again. Beside me knelt my nursemaid, younger by decades, weeping bitterly. "Madam, the general has died in service to the nation. He is gone." My body swayed, I clutched her arm, crying, "And my child? Where is my child? She thought I was too distraught to face reality, her own voice shaking. The young master is with the wet nurse. Madam, please take care of your health. I staggered away, rushing toward the nursery. There, the wet nurse was soothing an infant in swaddling clothes. At the sight of me, hair disheveled, hairpin askew, she nearly dropped the child in fright. I lunged forward, trembling hands scooping up the baby. But when I saw the infant wailing in my arms, my blood turned to ice. It was Shinsu, not my son. My hands went slack. Only the nurse's quick reflexes saved him from falling. I collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Why? Why not just a little earlier? If heaven pitied me, why not let me return to the moment of childbirth? Even if it meant a difficult labor, even if it meant losing blood, even if I had to suffer 3 days and nights of pain, I would have endured, to protect my child, to kill those who murdered him. But it was too late. All too late. Even given another life, my child had long since perished. Others thought I wept only because I could not accept news of my husband's death, my mind thrown into madness. Around me, the nurse and maids tried to console me. When I had cried enough, I feigned grief, clasping the nursemaid's hand. Where is the general now? She sighed. By now, they should be bringing him back to the city. I forced calm, as in my previous life, and ordered the steward to hang white cloth across the estate. When Xinling's coffin was carried inside, I wept until I nearly fainted. The soldiers who carried him back were mostly the old subordinates of my father. Seeing my grief, they could not help but feel pity. Tears poured down my face as I bowed deeply before them. Please, grant me one last look at my husband. The officers exchanged glances, astonished by my plea. Yet remembering that I had been widowed after less than 2 years of marriage, with a child still in swaddling clothes, their hearts softened. A young officer helped me up, whispering, Madam, tonight we will open the coffin, but the general has been dead 3-4 days already. I fear. My voice shook. I am not afraid. I only wish to see him one final time. That day, after receiving the mourners, I returned to my chamber exhausted. At that moment, my maid Jiang entered. She looked at me, hesitating, unable to find words of comfort. Jiang was no ordinary maid. She had been given to me by my mother herself, for she knew medicine. My mother had picked her up from the roadside, a girl 10 years my elder. But I knew, beyond medicine, Jiang excelled in poisons. In my past life, I thought myself fortunate, daughter of a first-rank general who guarded the realm, wed to a junior officer under my father's command. Only after I married Xinling did he rise in rank. His family's glory came entirely from me, and so I thought he would never dare treat me poorly. But I had underestimated the cruelty of men. Xinling was bold enough to strike at me and my child. In my past life, too proud and careless, I became prey to the treacherous. Now, reborn, I had no intention of pretending harmony. If Xinling wished for death, then I would gladly assist him. I grasped Jiang's hand. Do you have a poison to hand? Her eyes gleamed. Miss, I have plenty. In the past, whenever she called me miss, I would correct her, making her call me madam. But no longer. I had no wish to cling to courtesy, nor to be madam of the Shin household. From the bottles and vials she produced, I chose a small porcelain flask. This poison, Jiang explained, rots the body quickly after death. But its venom is weak, one must drink the entire bottle to die. I smiled radiantly, for the first time since rebirth, a true smile. Well done, Jiang. Thank you. That night, I sat vigil at the coffin with my mother-in-law. She dozed, but her face showed no grief. In my past life, she must already have known of Xinling's feigned death. How difficult for an old woman, near the grave herself, to guard such secrets. As before, my eyes red from tears, I said gently, Mother is aged, please rest. Tonight I will keep watch for my husband. She seemed eager to leave, only clasping my hand with a few words, "Good child, you have suffered," before departing. I dismissed the servants. The officers came at the agreed hour. They prepared to pry open the coffin. Just as they were about to lift the lid, I stopped them. "Thank you, all of you. Let me open it myself." My husband would never wish his brothers-in-arms to see him in such ruin. Choked with sobs, I bowed. One officer caught me, face full of compassion. "Madam, no need for such words. Then we shall step outside." Another warned, "Be quick, before dawn arrives." I nodded through my tears. When they were gone, I pushed the lid open with all my strength. There lay Xinling's youthful face. Pale, but not decayed, not like one dead for days. In my past life, I had been so naive, never doubting. Who could have imagined such a cruel ruse? But good. Tonight, I would correct all mistakes and set fate back on course. Pretending to weep, I tested his breath. Weak, but there. His body still warm. His pulse was faint, slower than any living man. Still sobbing, I searched him for a way to rouse him. When sure he was unconscious, I drew out the porcelain vial. Without hesitation, I pried open his jaw and poured in the whole bottle. To ensure the venom took hold, I pressed his chin, forcing it into his lungs. Watching his face turn green, hearing the urging from outside, I closed the coffin. Nails hammered in, sealing him tight. Only then did I exhale in relief. Dead. Truly dead. At his burial, I wept again, dutiful as before. Afterward, I watched the inner residence closely. The old matron remained in the Buddha hall, rarely stepping out. 3 days later, a piercing cry rang out from within. A smile flickered at my lips, quickly masked as I feigned worry. I rushed in, ignoring the servants who tried to bar me. The old matron was wailing, striking a young woman lying lifeless on the ground. "Didn't you say he was fine? Why is he dead?" I hurried to steady her. "Mother, who has died? Please, calm yourself." But she, lost in grief, shoved me away. Yet once she pushed me, she regained her composure. She remembered, Xinling's false death was to be kept from me. Wiping her tears, she asked coldly, "Why are you here?" I feigned hurt. "I was on my way to see Shinsu, when I heard your cries and entered." She turned aside, masking her face. "It is nothing. Go on and see Shinsu. But never again intrude upon the Buddha hall, you disturb its peace." I bit back a scornful laugh. She dared say I disturbed the Buddha's peace. A woman who conspired to hide her son's sham death. If she had aided this deception, she surely knew too, Shinsu was not my flesh and blood. 2 days later, her personal matron summoned me. I had guessed what might come, yet did not expect this. As soon as I entered, the old matron demanded I kneel. Kneel, to her. Dream on. I stood firm. "What fault has your daughter-in-law committed, that mother is displeased?" She could not hold her temper. She slapped me hard. "Speak. Was it you who killed my son?" I seized her wrist and shoved her back. Mother must be dreaming. My husband died for his country. What has that to do with a woman in the inner chambers? The old matron tore off her mask of civility. "The night of the vigil, did you order the coffin opened?" I sneered. My husband gone 3 months in battle, my infant son left fatherless in swaddling clothes. I only wished to see him one last time. What crime is that? Her face twisted like a demon's. She lunged at me. "Tell me. Did you see him alive?" I gripped her arms, voice sharp. When I looked, he was no longer human. The sight haunted me for days without sleep. "What are you raving about? Has grief driven you mad?" I turned and shouted, "Servants! Call the household physicians to examine her." Before my words had faded, from behind the screen stepped a woman, pointing at me with a sharp cry. It was her. She killed Xinling. He could not have died, he drank the death-feigning draught. The old matron cast her a venomous glance, yet did not silence her. I laughed coldly. The death-feigning draught. How do you know it was not real poison instead? In my past life, that drug was a marvel. But this time, no elixir could save him from my hand. I faced the woman, asking the old matron, "And who is this?" Before she could answer, I sneered. Before I married, I said clearly, I would never share my husband with another. Yet mother and my husband dared deceive me, dared betray the Zhao family. At the name of Zhao, the old matron stiffened. She remembered, though I had wed into the Shen family, I was still daughter of the Zhao clan. The Zhao clan was strong. The Shins could not trample them at will. In my past life, while Shen Ling lived, I endured for the sake of my child. Now, Shen Ling was truly dead, and the Shen family left with but one son, nothing remained with which to threaten me. Moreover, that son. The old matron stammered, "She is a distant cousin of my son." I said coldly, "Cousin or concubine, investigation will prove it." I was weary. No longer willing to waste my youth in this filthy house. Leaving the Shen estate, I ordered the carriage back to the general's mansion. Reborn, I saw once more my parents still in their youth. All the bitterness of past and present lives poured forth. I embraced my mother, weeping uncontrollably. After a night of conversation, the next day my father entered the palace, requesting a decree for my separation from the Shen family. My mother, unwilling for me to return to that defiled place, sent a Jiang and the servants to bring back all my dowry. As for Shen Ling and his illegitimate offspring, I cared nothing. I only wished to see whether, without my teaching and without the Zhao family's support, that child could grow at all. If he proved too outstanding, I would send someone to kill him. As for Shen Su, he was no more than an ant I could crush at any moment. In this life, I would pursue a life truly my own. The end.